Today is Friday the 14th of December 2018. My name is Sean Taylor and I'm recording this video in relations to the Tottenham regeneration scheme, in which is holding a unhealthy effect on its residents, such as um, housing tenants or business owners. My case involves is in relations to property tenants, householders, in which I moved into 257 High Road property in 2009. This was after being with Irish Causeway Housing from 2005, after losing my mum and was homeless for a few years. So moving to the present day, I we all, sorry, but me in particularly, I started to get information from Irish Causeway Housing in regards to the property being possessed, which was all of us that was in the building. There was 4 flats, and all of us received notices of evictions randomly, just out of the blue, after being told otherwise. So 2015 started to after making contact with them first, they would highlight or mention on occasion that our properties will be getting taken, be getting possessed from us due to Circle 33, in which Circle 33 is a housing association that owns the properties but allows Irish Causeway Housing Trust to manage them. There was a scheme going on later on. I discovered that there was a scheme going on between them both, in which they were helping homeless people reintegrate back into society as fully functioning individuals, which was not promoted to me or anybody else of my acknowledgement that was in that building anyway. So moving ahead of time, out of the blue, 2016 August, we received letters of eviction from the bailiffs, followed by another letter from Irish Causeway Housing directly ordering us to leave the premises. Middle of September, 20th of September of that month, of that year, sorry, in which was concerning because it only gave us literally less than 2 weeks, no, less than a month to leave the property, and also it was in contradiction with our tenancy agreements, which had the minimum of 2 months to leave. So after trying to make contact with them and to no avail, receiving so many excuses, or even at times having the phone being put down on you, I decided to go about making my own inquiries to David Lammy, and David Lammy, who is the mayor of Haringey Council, as well as the director of Circle 33 Housing, Mark Rogers, in which appeared to have informed Irish Causeway Housing, who didn't really take it nicely, as when I tried to make contact with them, I received an email saying, why don't I go and speak to Mark Rogers of Circle 33 in order to get housed. This was followed by trying to negotiate with them after receiving that distasteful email for no reason. They have their reasons, I guess. And so the pressure started to take place where they wanted me out of the property, and I was trying to get reason and letters to state why the eviction was taking place. So if I was to go elsewhere, I have justification of going there in written document to say that Circle 33 wanted their property back, which is what they stated. That didn't happen at all. Like I said, the phone was being put down. Excuses about the management not being there, the director needs to do this and whatnot. So that led to that. Then after a while, after speaking with my neighbour parallel to me in the building, he informed me that they offered him a shared accommodation in Islington, the borough of Islington, on Caledonia Road, but he refused to take it because it was under a license agreement and he would have to leave out within 7 days if they evict him. So I was offered the same property, in which I refused, and suggested that I wait to hear from either David Lammy, the mayor of Haringey, or Mark Rogers, the director of Circle 33, in which they refused and said that the director of Circle 33 wants the property back. Circle 33 wants the property back, and they have to go ahead with the eviction procedures. So they offered me the property and I refused, and they said if I refuse to take the property, I'll be deeming myself homeless. So at this time, I'm in a 1-bedroom flat, moving into a 1-room. So I'm trying to negotiate ways to have the rest of my property in storage, and they are again not responding and acting very passively towards my questions, and again phones being put down on me and stuff. So I eventually move in, and halfway through moving in, I discovered that there's no hot water or heating. So I complain about this. Again, they're not paying any attention to what I'm saying until I email them. Then they respond. This is Irish Causeway Housing. They respond and post me, or they drop the keys off in a brown envelope at the Caledonia Road Islington Borough property. So I eventually go back to Haringey Council, the property in Haringey Council, and what I do is at night I go there, maintain my hygiene, and there's gas to cook, so I eat and whatnot, and then commute from there to work. At this time, I had just received a opportunity to start a role on a trial period via an agency to work in a hostel. So one morning I was making my way, getting ready to go to work, in which I started work at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And during my time getting ready to go to work, I noticed that two people are having a debate outside my door. It's a small flat, 1-bedroom flat, and the community area is quite narrow and short. So they're having a debate. It was controlled. It wasn't out of control. That ended, and during the time there was some drilling taking place as well. And I was curious of what was happening, but I was getting ready for work. Shortly after, I received a knock on the door. It answered me. Well, I said I couldn't make it to the door because I was getting ready to go to work. So they said not to worry, they'll come back. Once I had got myself dressed, I remembered that I had no money on my Oyster. So I made my way downstairs, as the building is on top of some shops, and the newsagent's literally downstairs from me. So less than 5 minutes, depending who's in the shop, I would have my Oyster done and completed and go back upstairs. So I made my way downstairs. opened the communal door, and my neighbour's girlfriend was there with a friend, who rushed past me. She greeted me, and told me to keep the door open, and they rushed upstairs. Thought that was weird, but went to the shop because I knew I wasn't going to be long anyway. Um, so came back up after topping up my oyster, and I couldn't get my keys in the lock at all. Tried to shake the door, no joy. Knocked on the door, barged the door. Tried my key again, still no joy. Couldn't believe it. And at this time, I was quite concerned because one of my neighbours has friends who are experienced squatters, so to speak, and I thought because of what was taking place, they had changed the locks on the doors in order to protest under Squatters' Rights Act. So I eventually forced entry, in which, lo and behold, behind the door was the housing officer on her phone, texting, just standing there with her head down, focused. It startled her, and I apologised for startling her, and she paid no mind to that, which I found quite weird, because she was quite scared, but she just was focusing on the door and the damage to the door. So I explained why I did it, and equally, what also encouraged me to do that as well, was the fact that I had a lot of sentimental values, jewelry as such, in regards to my mum and my grandparents and my dad, and I moved them from the Islington property for safekeeping, because it was a shared accommodation, and where I was going to was my 1 bedroom flat, which there was 2 doors to get through, had more security, and I didn't know who was going to be in the shared accommodation, so I had left them there. So that kind of gave me more incentive to get into the property, which I did. So she ran off, saying she doesn't care about why I did it, and said I broke the lock. Shortly afterwards, I was met by the police, who came to the property and was going to arrest me because of vandalism, trespassing, and damage. I explained what happened, and they didn't believe me, as I had no evidence. And so after a while, they just advised me to collect what I could and make arrangements to get the rest of my stuff, which I did. But during the process of doing that, I discovered that I had a notification from my phone, which was a text from the head office, which I thought was from the head office, of Irish Causeway Housing, instructed me to collect a spare set of keys from the office and do not let any existing tenants into the building, which I thought was weird, because they hadn't had enough time to get their stuff in the first place, and to lock the door just didn't sit right with me, considering that fact. So I showed it to the police, the text message, and they seemed annoyed, but they didn't, it was in body language, so to speak, and they asked who sent that, and the housing officer stated that it was her. So the police instructed me to carry on as I was, which I did do, and that led to me the following weekend receiving a letter of eviction from the Islington Borough property. There's so many things that's gone wrong in regards to that. What I discovered is that the Haringey property, I found it weird that they only had 2 letters for the property, and when I looked into it, what they had done is use a possession order from 2011 for present day incident which wasn't in relation to what the possession order was applied for in the first place, which was rent arrears. The eviction of the higher of property was of property development issues, and so technically a new possession order should have been issued for that, because you can't use the same possession order for two different things. Adding to that is the time as well. In relation to the eviction of the Islington Borough, what I discovered with that is that the license agreement itself actually is in breach, because it's not like for like. It's basically, I have to give them 1 month's notice to leave, in which they give me 7 days. And when I took it to the Islington Council, they said it's breached because it's not like for like. Adding to that as well, after getting a solicitor, but that broke down due to legal aid issues and whatnot. It was discovered that the license should not be used because I wasn't living with the landlord. They was a out of property landlord, and so the license should not have been issued in the first place. Adding insult to injury, I couldn't receive any of my belongings back. Anything that I left behind, there was no window of opportunity because of the time that was given. That was in breach of both of the contracts or the license, which makes it illegal. It was worse when I discovered that they had moved a individual into the shared accommodation into my room, and I was exercising the usage of my bed, my furniture, my computer, and all the rest of my belongings. My belongings that I had that belonged to my mum and my parents, my grandparents, gone. I went back to the property only to discover that all of my stuff was out on the floor in the open communal area outside, along with other tenants' stuff as well, because there was stuff I couldn't had no acknowledgement of, and it wasn't mine. When I look at this further, it looks like it was a case of corruption, and the reason why is the CPO eventually came in contact with me, and it was discovered that the property was not registered under the CPO, and so Granger had no acknowledgement of it. But however, Circle 33 and Irish Causeway did, and they took that opportunity to treat us as expendable numbers or usage for their desire, and treat us how they like. In which, if I'm being honest, it feels like, generally, when I look at this in the bigger scale of thing, there feels to be a notion of a hierarchy or discriminative preference. And what I mean by that is that there was a tenant that was with us, of Caucasian origin, great guy, no issues at all with him, no one had issues with him at all, and vice versa, as you do. He was there less than a year, and he was the first and the only person to receive the right procedures in order to get his studio flat. another individual did get his flat of Caucasian origin, but to my acknowledgement, I think because there is a case of mental health and he's somewhat a bit more direct, they took the opportunity to reprimand him, in which he was homeless and he was viciously assaulted, unfortunately, and however he had the clear opportunity to go to the CPO meeting, have his say, in which he exposed them. He exposed the process of this regeneration scheme, and got a flat eventually. Nevertheless, however, I should say, myself, I did get an opportunity, but it was in the 11th hour, and I asked if it would benefit me to attend in regards to my housing situation, and they said no, only to discover that my neighbour in question went to it and got a property. The other two tenants who I'm helping at current, thanks to Merca of Lighton Village, they had no say whatsoever. One of them is too scared to speak, so has written a statement. He's not comfortable in doing a video recording, because he's still currently with Irish Causeway Housing, in shared accommodation and paying ridiculous amount of rent. It's another thing as well. My 1-bedroom flat costs £100 a month, no, £100 a week, sorry, and the shared accommodation costs £170, and then they brought it down after me highlighting it and disputing certain things about it to £140. So he's quite reluctant, and from a ethnic minority, Ethiopia, into London, he's trying to hold on to what he can, and I understand that. I respect that. And the other lady, she's done a video statement, and they treated her no different to me, regardless of her having 2 children, different genders, one able-bodied and the other one disabled. She got terrible treatment. I was attacked as well during being homeless. I mean, if the procedures were done right, I wouldn't have to be in certain environments and find myself engaging in other people's domestic violence in regards to their neighbours, and leading me to go hospital for stitches in my elbow after being attacked with a pole. Lost all my belongings. Like I said, they moved somebody else into the building, who I eventually spoke with, and he stated that he couldn't give me back any of my property because he had been advised to sign a contract telling him that if he does so, he will be evicted. A lot of loss has taken place with a lot of people. Well, it doesn't even matter how many people are people. Human rights have been in question because we haven't been treated humane. This is the first time I've ever taken medication for sleeping. I don't usually take medication. it's damaged. It's done a lot. It's done a lot. Um, I mean, even down to the solicitors and Irish Circle 33 denying the facts, even though, we present them with the text messages. Um, their excuses are very weak and feeble, and in a great sense of denial. I don't know what's going to happen with our case at this moment, but we've all been through a lot, and being homeless, not knowing where you are going to be the next day, sleeping from place to place, and sometimes not sleeping, sometimes walking the streets. When you do sleep, you don't know where you are, and it interrupts with the rest of your life, because it brings anxiety towards your future. You're sleeping, you don't know what room you're in, and your mind thinks your body sleeping in one room, but your mind thinks you're sleeping in another room, and it will try and submerge the both together, and it causes panic attacks, jumping out of your sleep. Like I said, it affects your social life, because you just want to stay somewhere. Where you get to sleep, you want to stay somewhere because it might go again. We might not get shelter as you once had before, so it's hard. Like I said, I lost a job opportunity, medication, anxiety. Yeah, however, it hasn't been all that bad, because I managed to qualify as a psychotherapist, ironically, and a family mediator, which has been helping me, because it's helped me to process things more rationally. However, nevertheless, I still want to thank you all for taking the opportunity to listen to what I have to say, because not many people have. Like I say, there's been a lot of disregard. I've sent all that I have to you guys, so you can look and see the truth for yourself, and judge for yourself. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing I've done wrong to permit this, or deserve this. None of us have. So I thank you. Like I say, when no one else has, I never thought that you guys will. You lot deal with a lot of other much more meaningful things. There is more worse things you can go through, much more worse. That cannot be denied. So to listen to this, I appreciate the consideration, and I want to thank Merca as well at London Village for finding a way to make this happen, because I never thought it would. This is the last place I thought I'll be heard, or given the opportunity to be heard, because no one else is listening, and when they do listen, they don't really care. They lie, and I'm going to say lie, because it's a word that exists, and at this moment, I don't really care about political correctness as such, but I respect everybody else's views and consider them. So I thank you once again.